Welcome back to American Christian or Christian American. If this is your first time, welcome. I would also encourage you to go back to the beginning, episode 1, and the first few episodes especially, to get a grounding of how I started this, and so it gives you a little bit better understanding of the topics I'm going through. Now, if you don't want to watch every one of them, still the earlier ones up through 9 will give you a basic information that I think is important. But anyway, even if you don't, you can still get some good information that I'm sharing now. I have improved in my abilities. We're up into, I think I've made 65 videos so far this year. Anyway, if you can also push that subscribe button, it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't commit you to anything. You can always unsubscribe. But what it does is it makes it easier for the videos to come to you. And it also helps the channel when people see more subscribers. If you can also hit the like button if you like this video, that also helps the algorithm with YouTube to get out there to more people. So today we're going to talk about something I've been talking about all along in different parts and pieces. And I have a video of somebody did a video that's excellent that we're going to play. But I want to start out that, you know, this country indoctrinates people from the very beginning of their lives. And if you don't have somebody else in your family to teach you the truth, you begin to believe all the lies. When it says, all men are created equal, we think that means everybody. Well, we, today, at least in word, we say that's true. But that's not what the document was intended for. The document was intended all white men are created equal. No, I know, it doesn't say white. But look at the evidence. First of all, women were not included in that. Second of all, the Native Americans were savages. Third, the enslaved people, African people, were 3/5 of a person. So what can you conclude from that? That when they said all men are created equal, they meant white men. And only white men who owned property were able to vote. Our system is set up to be a democracy, but in many ways our system has been corrupted. And so we're going to talk about these things today. We're going to talk about how that works. And actually, I've got 2 different videos I'm going to play. I'll play the longest one first, and then we got one other short one I'm going to play as well.
In his final State of the Union, President Obama was talking about the need in our nation for a new politics. And he said,
"We the people." Our Constitution begins with those 3 simple words. Words we've come to recognize mean all the people, not just some.
Now, when I heard that, as a Native man, I had to stop and ask when. I've read our founding documents, I've studied our history, and I had to question, when did we decide as a nation that we the people actually means all the people? Literally 30 lines below the statement, all men are created equal, the Declaration of Independence refers to natives as merciless Indian savages, making it very clear the only reason our founding fathers used this inclusive term, all men, because they had a very narrow definition of who was actually human. Now, a few years later, our founding fathers wrote another document. They started this one with the words, "We the people of the United States." This, of course, is the preamble to the Constitution. However, if you read just a few lines later, down to Article 1, Section 2, section of the Constitution that defines who is and who is not covered by this Constitution, the first thing you will note is it never mentions women. Second, it specifically excludes natives. And third, it counts Africans as 3/5 of a person. So who's left? Well, white landowning men is who could vote. Now we have to ponder this for a moment. The reason our Constitution was written, the purpose of our Constitution is to protect the interests of white landowning men. So today we act shocked that women earn 70 cents to the dollar. This shouldn't shock us. Our Constitution is working. We act surprised that our prisons are filled with people of color. This shouldn't surprise us. Our Constitution is working. We act outraged that in 2010, the Supreme Court sided with Citizens United and rules that corporations now have the same rights to political free speech as individuals. This is what opens the door for super PACs, unlimited contributions to candidates. This shouldn't surprise us. The Constitution's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's protecting the interests of white landowning men. So this makes our Constitution a systemically white supremacist and sexist document that assumes the white landowning male has the authority to decide who is and who is not human. See, we would rather believe that the United States of America is racist and sexist and white supremacist in spite of our foundation. But the truth is we are white supremacist, racist, and sexist as a nation because of our foundations, and we don't know what to do with that. There's an Aboriginal leader named George Erasmus, and he says where common memory is lacking, where people do not share in the same past, there can be no real community. If you want to build community, he says, you have to start by creating a common memory. I think this quote is brilliant, and it gets to the heart of our nation's problem with race, which is we don't have a common memory. We have a white majority that remembers a history, a mythological history of discovery, expansion, exceptionalism, and opportunities. And we have communities of color that have the lived experience of stolen lands, broken treaties, slavery, Jim Crow laws, segregation, boarding schools, ethnic cleansing, genocide, internment camps, mass incarceration, and families separated at our borders. We have no common memory, and I think we all can agree that community on a national level is absolutely in the pits. I'm proposing that the United States of America needs a national dialogue on race, gender, and class. A conversation on par with the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions that took place in South Africa, in Rwanda, and in Canada. If we can acknowledge the vile racism, sexism, colonialism, and white supremacy that our founding fathers embedded deep into our foundations, we might just be able to leave a different legacy for our children's, grandchildren's, grandchildren's, grandchildren. A legacy that for the first time, we the people might actually mean all the people.
Right here is really important why it would be good for you to watch the first videos that I talked about. Because people like me were not the first people in the world. And we talk about the evidences to show that. That has been the greatest lie ever told, that white people were first and that black people were a result of a curse. We talked about the fact that only medium brown skinned people could have been Adam and Eve, could have been the first people, because only a medium brown family would have the genetic diversity to produce darker and lighter people. It is impossible for white people to have been first and to create all this diversity. It is also ridiculous to think that a people who occupy only 15 to 18% of the world population could have been first. There are more darker skinned people than anybody else. There are more brown-eyed people. Why is that? Because melanin dictates hair color, eye color, and skin tones. I'm not white, actually, which is another fallacy. My skin is not white. If you take a white piece of paper and put it against my skin, they don't match. I am a brown-skinned person like anybody else. Yes, I'm Caucasian, but Caucasians are also brown skin, very light brown skin. And then you have the darkest brown skin and all these different levels in between. We are from the same Christian or same family of God's children. So when white supremacy evolved back in the first century and on, I mean, it mainly exists over 500 years, white supremacy, but there were steps that were taken by Catholicism and things to change the history of the church that have set us on a path that video talks about, that we haven't got a common history. So when whites come to this country, they are divided against the Native Americans and they enslave the Africans. So there's no common history. Each of us looks at history differently. The whites look at it as their privilege, that they are, they were the founders, they were the ones who knew it all and taught it all, and Indians or Native Americans were savages, and African people were too dumb to know anything. That's what we have been pushed out here, and we've fought against that. But there's division amongst us because the way people are still treated today. But if you go back and recognize that we all come from the same group of people, that's a start. That's a beginning to understanding that we are one family. And that this country here was founded, yes, as a white-only nation, but it wasn't built as a white-only nation because Native Americans contributed to it. African Americans contributed to it through slavery. They built a lot of things that we have. In fact, they discovered many things. It's just that we don't want to admit it. We want to deny all those discoveries. So where do we go from here? We have to get over the lies that this country continues to put out. We have to get over the lies that we actually have a functioning democracy. We don't. We do have the right to vote, and I'm not encouraging anybody not to vote because we do have some power. But there are so many things that are done against it. We really have to stand up together to make changes. Part of the problem is the gerrymandering that goes, like in Texas, they're trying to shift things around so it will eliminate Democratic seats and have more Republicans, which is ridiculous if we actually have a democracy. Neither Democrats or Republicans should have the power to do that when they get in power. There should be a system set up that's fair to all candidates to run according to their policies. So we got that problem. But yet, if people were to come out in droves and to vote, we can win elections. The second part that helps the powers that be to win this idea of not having a true democracy is to discourage a group of people that coming out to vote is useless. And that's not true. It is a struggle because of all the things they've put in place. But especially with changes that have happened since the founding of the Constitution, there is enough there that if a drove of people came out, that we can actually win elections. But do we let Donald Trump change things forever where we can't trust our elections? Do we let him change things where it becomes a dictatorship? Because that's what we're in store for. And I have another video on play, and we'll get to that, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Want to know the real reason Trump doesn't get any pushback from Republicans in Congress? It's not just that they're cowards, it's because he's doing their bidding. Trump's acts to upend our democracy are achieving what the Republicans have wanted for a long time. They are the ones who supported slavery back in the day when they called themselves Democrats. Same for Jim Crow. They wouldn't even support laws to outlaw lynching, claiming it was a states' rights matter. Again, these were Southern Democrats known as Dixiecrats. Proud white racist Strom Thurmond ran for president as a Dixiecrat in the 1948 election, won by a real Democrat named Harry Truman. Our Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts under LBJ made them so mad they switched parties, and since then they've been on a tear to achieve a white nationalist stranglehold by gerrymandering and vote rigging in such a way as to have permanent control. Sound familiar? So don't give Republicans a pass. They are the inheritors of the Strom Thurmond legacy. They don't wear sheets and pointy hats anymore, but they might as well. They even have a man named Trump as their grand klutz.
This man here is very, very direct, and he's very, very correct. Our Constitution was never set up to include all people for the creation of a white, racist, white nationalist country. Now, we've had things that have moved us away from that to some degree, but our Constitution is still creating havoc and a mess, doing the things that it was created to do. But he points it out that the Republican Party is the home of all these people who have come back from slavery and everything else. Oh, there might be a few stragglers here and there who just believe in some conservative ideas, whatever. But the bulk of what the Republican agenda is to have that white nationalist nation. They call themselves evangelicals. They call themselves conservatives, religious conservatives, family matters. That's a bunch of malarkey. This is not about those things. This is about white power, white control, dominance, slavery, white supremacy, segregation, making white people superior, and not just white people, but white people with money, property, control. That's what it's all about. So when do we stop honoring the Constitution? It shouldn't be. Now, I'm not saying to throw the Constitution away without replacing it, but we do need to replace it. And I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon because we've got way too many people in this country who are still extremely racist to slightly racist and who idolize the Constitution when the Constitution is nothing to be idolized. Now, there are a few components within the Constitution, the freedom of speech and a few other things that are good things. We can frame a new Constitution where we include all people, where we actually make a government that is by the people, that things can't be altered by the whim of a party who's trying to manipulate things. And we can include all those other things. Add some things like healthcare being a human right. So those are things that we should strongly consider. Whether we keep the same style of government, go to parliamentary system, or we just adjust our system, whatever. We need a new constitution, one that really will build a true United States, one that is uniting all people. But we're not there. But until enough people in this country wake up to realize that this Constitution is a big lie, that it is something designed to keep whites in power. The Second Amendment, again, to right to bear arms with a well-organized militia, again, was the idea of the slave patrol. That's where it came up. Southern Democrats wanting to be able to shoot their slaves that they got out of hand. And from there, our police departments evolved. So this is nothing about decency. There were decent people back then. Of course there were. There are always good people, people who are white, people of any type of background. But the bulk of the society, the founding of the society, those involved in the founding, they're nothing to be praised, nothing to be honored. If you want to honor people, for instance, on the American currency, Martin Luther King would be one person to honor. I mean, he would be a person, Martin Luther King Jr., because of all the work that he did. And there are other people, white or black, that can be honored who stand for good things, not for the corruption of has been our American government. Now, people would say, well, if you don't like it, get out. Well, no, because that's another toy by white supremacy. If you don't like it, go away. So we can have this white Christian, so to speak, nation. But no, we all have participated in this country. We have worked in this country. We have contributed to it. And so every person here deserves to have a part in this nation. I know there's been people who didn't work, who scammed or begged off other people. Yeah, but that's true with every type of people, all right? The point is, black people have contributed exceptionally to this country, and they have not been given honor, and they have not been given recognition for so many of the things that they discovered that a white person's name covers. Native Americans have contributed to this country in so many different ways. We learned a lot from them, even if we didn't learn it in the beginning. Other types of immigrants have come to this country, and they have benefited this country to be better in many ways. So let's stop with the idea that you can go home, and especially since those people were actually born here, many of them, African Americans who were born here, and you tell them to go back to Africa, they've never been to Africa maybe. Or if they have, they've been there for a visit, but they weren't born there. This land, this dirt, this air is where they have contributed and that they're part of, and they have equal rights to it, or should have equal rights to it. It's time for white supremacy to leave the country, because we're tired as a people in this country of accepting such evil, disgusting garbage. And we're tired of Christianity being misrepresented through hate rather than what God wants it to be. Because white supremacist is not godly. And that doesn't mean that every white Christian out there is part of white supremacy. But the evangelical movement in this country, that's what it's about. That's what these televangelists are about. This is about promoting the hatred of mankind, not the Word of God. Until the next time on American Christian or Christian American.